1960 was a year of international tensions. The U-2 spy plane incident led to a widening breach between the United States and the Soviets. The Russians put the wreckage on display as they denounced all of the West for the flights. It was a propaganda field day for the Russians, and Khrushchev angrily withdrew his invitation for President Eisenhower's visit. The U-2 led directly to the scuttling of the Paris Summit Conference. President Eisenhower arrived to find Khrushchev demanding an apology before he would meet with the Western Big Three, de Gaulle, Macmillan, and Eisenhower. Mr. Eisenhower refused. An enraged Khrushchev called a news conference of journalists on hand for the canceled summit meeting. He denounced the United States with every epithet in his vocabulary. He summarily rejected all attempts of the West at reconciliation. On the other side of the world, riots broke out in Japan when Press Secretary James Haggerty arrived to arrange for President Eisenhower's visit. A mob of 6,000 broke through police lines and for more than an hour kept Mr. Haggerty and Ambassador Douglas MacArthur II prisoners. They were finally rescued by a Marine helicopter. The rioters, mostly leftist students, didn't want President Eisenhower to visit the country, and he was prevailed upon to cancel his trip in the interests of safety. After the visit was canceled, the leftist student riots continued almost daily. Now they were agitating against the signing of a U.S.-Japanese security pact. 20,000 students tried to storm the residence of Premier Kishi. Mobs were brought under control. The pact was signed, and the riots died out. President Eisenhower's visit to Manila proved to be the biggest and loudest ever staged in the Philippines. More than 1 million persons cheered his motorcade, and despite the cancellation of his Tokyo visit, his Far Eastern tour was a triumph for the U.S. and the President. At Trade Union House, Mrs. Frances Powers arrives for her husband's spy trial, also attended by his parents. The U-2 pilot pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The Belgian Congo became independent and threatened to be the tinderbox that might set off World War III. Premier Lumumba, with Soviet leanings, was deposed by strongman Colonel Mobutu, putting to an end Red infiltration. But rioting continued throughout the year. Some provinces broke away from the central government, and there was rebellion among Congolese troops before discipline was restored. Confusion reigned as power shifted from day to day. Reinforced United Nations troops brought some order from the chaos, but many remote tribes refused to recognize their authority. The Congo, world danger spot. United States insurance against attack was bolstered by atomic submarines, equipped with 16 nuclear Polaris missiles. These first shots of the Polaris missile voice warning to any aggressor that an attack means instant retaliation. She can cruise submerged for 2 years and fire her missiles 1,500 miles, enabling her to strike anywhere in the world. In the race for space, the United States scored a notable first. A flying boxcar in the Pacific snagged a satellite nose cone in midair. The instrument-laden capsule is a prototype of spy satellites that will keep us informed of enemy action. And this mid-air capture was also a giant step in the problem of returning a space pilot to Earth. In national defense, the United States forged ahead in 1960. 15th session of the United Nations General Assembly convened, and as first order of business, admitted 13 new African nations. This raised the neutral bloc to 44 in a membership of 98. Cuba's Castro and Khrushchev had a well-publicized meeting. The Russian leader brought along all of his satellite puppets to hear Castro's speech labeled the United States an aggressor. Khrushchev tried to form the UN to his own ends. He wanted a Soviet-type presidium to rule in place of Dag Hammarskjöld. He went further and said the UN should move out of the U.S. The delegates were shocked when, during England's Prime Minister Macmillan's speech, the Russian leader constantly interrupted and then pounded his desk in a show of contempt. Dag Hammarskjöld weathered Khrushchev's attacks with dignity, refusing to resign his duties to the smaller nations. What Khrushchev had hoped would be a smashing propaganda victory turned into a crushing defeat. His boorish conduct did much to alienate Russian sympathy among neutral nations. After 6 years of strife, the situation in Algeria threatened the stability of France, with natives and some French agitating for independence, and French settlers calling for continued ties with France. Hundreds died in fighting and rioting. As the year neared its end, President de Gaulle prepared to call for a nationwide referendum on the question, electing to stand or fall on the result. A record 68 million Americans went to the polls to elect the 35th President of the United States in what proved to be one of the closest elections in history. John F. Kennedy defeated Richard Nixon by a margin of less than 250,000 popular votes. With victory conceded, his parents and the new First Lady at his side, he thanked his supporters and pledged,
"Every degree of mind and spirit that I possess will be devoted to the long-range interests of the United States and to the cause of freedom around the world."
The youngest man, 43, ever elected president to guide the destiny of the United States in the decisive years ahead.